Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Gruber. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Welcome to another episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason Mefford.
And I am Kathy Gruber, and we are so honored to have another amazing special guest. I go back at least a year with this amazing woman. We've got Loddie Foose today, everybody. So welcome. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks, Kathy and Jason.
Yeah. So tell everybody a little bit of who you are, what you're doing, what you're here with us to talk about, and what got you here.
Sure. So I think we're going to be talking a little bit about the work that you and I are doing together, actually, Kathy, for the Healthcare Business Women's Association. So we've got a group called Women in Healthcare Give Back, and I'm the global chair and founder for that group. And basically, it's about helping women overcome some of the challenges they might face with confidence, with building skills professionally for the environment, but by putting in front of them something that's bigger than themselves. And that bigger thing is really serving their community. And so the purpose of Women in Healthcare Give Back is to actually focus on things that are going to help local or global communities and give women that to sink their teeth into as the way they're going to overcome the things that are holding themselves back.
I love it. I love it. So let's back up. So let's say what HBA is, because we talked about that off the air, but the description of it is just amazing. And we're both already so impressed with it.
So HBA actually started back in the 1970s. So the Healthcare Business Women's Association is a global not-for-profit that helps women really think about how they're going to be more successful in the workplace. So it's about bringing diversity, equity, and inclusion increasingly to the healthcare industry. The HBA has, tens of thousands of members around the world, a very long list of corporate sponsors that work with the organization to help advance those goals in equality and equity in the industry. And it's really become known as an organization that is helping shift the mark. And so HBA runs off a phenomenal group of staff members who are fully employed for the not-for-profit, and then a long list of volunteer leaders like myself who also have professional roles in the industry, but are just passionate about what HBA does. And so also contribute our voice and our time and our energy into helping make it successful.
Well, it's so important because we were talking a little bit before we started too, of just how, our world is shaped a lot by kind of the masculine side of things, right? And unfortunately, it's great that organizations like this exist, that you all are doing this, and we've noticed, especially, diversity, equity, inclusion is a big topic right now, and it's a topic that we should have been talking about for a long time, right? But that how much of our world, consciously or unconsciously, is kind of shaped because of the power that men have had in the world, and have kind of forgotten kind of the female side of things, right? What are some things, again, that I see this as a great thing, right? Is that we need more women voices. We need more of this discussion in here because it makes our world a better place, right? And like you said, as women step up, as they help the communities, as they're giving back more, they're also gaining confidence, but they're making this world a better place too, right? So what are some simple things, that again that you all are working on to try to help make this change?
Yeah, Jason, what it makes me think of is like when you say the masculine and feminine, you're right. So much about success is how do we bring increasing balance in bringing diversity into the workforce. And there are a lot of studies that have shown, you can't really generalize because obviously as individuals, we have a huge range of things that define us beyond things like gender identity. But there are studies that have shown that there's naturally different tendencies around how different people lead when they come from different backgrounds. Like you might have a greater tendency towards, really a collaborative environment, more or less listening, right? Aggressive versus more kind of like an open approach to leadership. And those are the types of things where when we can actually tap into the diversity of approaches that people bring to problem solving and working together to try to achieve something in industry, we're much more likely to actually deliver on our mission. And, sometimes it starts with simple things, right? So when we're talking about how do we do that, in terms of building some of the confidence for women that we try to do through our program, it's helping them see that there is so much potential that's already inside them. And sometimes it's simple things like being comfortable with asking. So, something you often hear with women is that they are less likely, right? Then there's a lot of data behind this. They're less likely to ask for a promotion. They're less likely to ask for a compensation increase. And in fact, everyone's heard the whole, somewhere between 70 to 80 cents on a dollar description of sort of where pay equity is. And this comes from often not having the background or the skills or the knowledge that it's okay to actually do self-advocacy. And so really simple things like we'll say, we're working with this particular global nonprofit. We want to amplify the impact of what we can all achieve together. Why don't you share in your network, and we'll share with the women, different talking points, share in your network what you're passionate about with this nonprofit, help bring attention to what it is they're trying to achieve. And all of a sudden, women will say, wow, I've never done this before, but I'm actually posting in LinkedIn now. I used to worry so much about what would my network think if I posted LinkedIn that I wasn't really using it. And now I'm actually putting out a perspective, and wow, people are actually commenting or sharing or liking my post. And, it's that simple thing where even for that example, Jason, someone's doing something because they're doing it because it's for something bigger than themselves, but also they're learning, hey, wait a minute, I can do this. I can then go and next time, not just reach out on LinkedIn to someone I don't know because I want to help achieve something for this nonprofit, like helping get medical equipment we can send to communities in need overseas. But also I can reach out because I want to understand their career path, and I can reach out to help understand how I might grow in my own career and whether they'd be willing to coach or mentor. So it's overcoming those obstacles that hold us back by giving these women something that for them is just so incredibly important. And it reminds me of that quote, and I'm going to totally butcher this quote, by the way, but it goes something like this from Nietzsche with the, we can achieve any what, but with a big enough why. So how do we give them a why? And sometimes that why, if you make it about something bigger than ourselves, we can then apply it right to ourselves as we continue to try to contribute and grow in this world.
Yeah, sure. I mean, every skill we learn, right, expands ourselves. So even if we're learning it for a bigger reason, it enhances our lives too. And to go back to what you said, Loddie, about the, women don't want to ask for a raise and that sort of thing. I don't remember what the exact statistics are, but it was about women applying for positions, and they would read the requirements of the job. And if they didn't have 90%, they wouldn't apply, where a guy would look and go, I could do 3 of those things, and they'd put in the application. So, there's so many times where women hold themselves back. There's that if I'm not 100%, if I don't have it all, then I'm not worthy of it. Whereas guys tend to have and I don't know if it's just the confidence, the bravado, the hormones, the whatever it is that allows them to go, yeah, screw it, whatever, I'm going to try it. And if I get it, great. And if not, whatever. Women tend to not do that. So are there specific skills that you've seen people gain over the years, other than just plain out confidence? Are there specific skills that we can instill in some of our young women to have them look at that list and go, hey, I could do half those things. What the hell, what the heck? Let's try it.
Yeah. How phenomenal would that be if the first thing someone thinks of when they look at something is, yeah, wait a minute, I can do some of this, and the stuff I can't do, I'm going to get to learn how to do. How great would that be if we start from a place of potential when we're considering these things?
Yeah.
And, I think with the women that we work with in the program, one of the things that's also really nice about the Healthcare Business Women's Association, it's a very supportive and low risk environment. So actually, one of the women on my global board for Women in Healthcare Give Back, when she first got recruited into her board position, I said to her, we would love for you to do this strategically important marketing and communications role. But you've got to shape it yourself. Here's some of the things we'd like to see. And she looked at that, and she doesn't do this stuff in her day job, right? She's a very seasoned and thoughtful professional day job, but not in marketing communications. And the first thing she said was, well, I've never done marketing and communications before. And then she thought about it, and she said, but that doesn't mean I can't. It was just such a beautiful thing to see. A wellness woman I'm speaking highly of is Amanda Knight. And it's just so lovely to get to see women have the space to be able to explore those things. Because like you said, Kathy, I think that there's a different, for many people, right? We're doing a little bit of generalizing here, but I think there's so many statistics that support this, a little bit less willingness for risk taking
Yeah.
when it comes to women in the workplace and in professional industries. And it's not something that's just personal. It's something that sometimes is, it's almost like a societal thing, right? Like, I'll be honest, there have been times in my career where people have said to me, "Oh, well, you seem like you're setting an ambitious career goal. Like, why is that?" And men have said that to me. Um, and I just thought it was really interesting because I'd never heard any of my male colleagues be told that they were being ambitious in their career goal. And I wondered why a different, criteria should apply to me or really anyone else, regardless of their background. Because isn't ambition about actually seeing the potential of what could be and then constantly trying to reshape ourselves to see if we can achieve that? And that's part of the learning and growth journey. And it's beautiful.
Mm.
Well, it's interesting because as you're talking too, I mean, again, there's some different generalities, and in our society, it seems like women are the caretakers, right? It just seems like if you're a mom, or whatever, usually you're kind of taking care of, and you're kind of in the back seat. There's that whole joke, behind every great man is a great woman, right? And it's like, well, the woman's probably better than the man is anyway, right? But she's chosen to take the back seat for whatever reason. But there's a lot of those cultural things that I think, push over and probably end up feeding into that, where women aren't willing to be as aggressive or put themselves out. It was an old Jimmy Stewart movie, and I can't remember the name of it, but there was his mother character in that movie. She would always say, "Oh, it's good enough for the mama," like oh no, it's good enough for my son, but it's not good enough for the mama, sort of thing, to where it feels like a lot of women kind of discount themselves and almost feel like they're not worthy. But ladies, you're worth it. You're worth it. It's like, go for it, right?
Well, and Jason, I agree. And I think that the ideal place is a place where everyone feels that they're empowered to follow what feels right for them. Because some of those women who want to be in caretaking roles, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I'm thinking actually there's a leader that I know, very well regarded in the industry. She was a partner at a top consulting firm, and she made a decision, and she actually announced it in professional social media, that she wanted to take a step back from her career and support her kids and really focus more on her family. And she had really reached, right, as a partner at a top tier consulting firm, she had really reached like a career pinnacle that many people dream of. But it's what felt right for her, right? So she wasn't doing it from a place of, I've got to step back, or I'm not able to do this, or I don't have the confidence to do this. And that should be just as accepted as, supporting the women who do want something different. Because at a different track, I have a woman that I know, and her husband both have really high powered careers. They're both, lawyers. But she has said, like, it's really challenging for us because when it comes to caretaking, I disproportionately take some of the work. And there's an expectation from the other partners at his firm that he be available all the time for everything, and that basically they assume, because I'm the wife, that I'm going to take over all those other responsibilities, as opposed to us being able to share them. And then what naturally that leads to is like partnership, right? Regardless of your gender identity, regardless of the gender of the person that you're partnered with, being able to have conversations about what's most important to you as a partner set, and how you're going to achieve those together is also really critical. So I think I was very young when someone first said to me, "Who you partner with is like really important." And, I'm very lucky that I have a husband who's incredibly supportive of me being very involved, both in the nonprofit work as well as in my day job that helps pay bills.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, that's exactly, it is about partnership. And it's also, I think, about knowing what your values are.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you don't know what you value, and I loved it, one of the first times I started learning about values, I was at a women's business conference down in Anaheim. It was all women executives. I was one of the speakers, and the keynote was talking about values. And she said, if you don't know what you want, if you don't know what you value, you don't know how to make choices. And she said she struggled as a single mom. Her husband left right after the second kid was born. So she had 2 kids by herself under 3, and he left, never supported her. And she was struggling and she wanted to start this company. And she got an opportunity many decades later to partner with this Japanese firm, and it would set her for life. It was going to be a multi-million-dollar contract, but there was one specific week she had to be in Japan, and it was the week of her daughter's wedding.
Oh.
And you could hear the audience go, oh. She said, how many of you would have gone to the meeting? And we all kind of looked around. She said, how many would have canceled the meeting, lost that opportunity, and gone to the wedding? And look around and see who raised their hand. And then we all waited, like, well, what'd you do? And she gave this way too long a pause. It was brilliant. And she goes, I took the meeting, and I promised my daughter that I would pay for the most amazing month to her go wherever she wanted around the world. And when she sat her daughter down and said, look, I have this opportunity, you know how important this is to me, you know how important you are to me, but I have to take this for the family. I have thought about it over and over. And the daughter went, of course you do. This is what you always wanted. You send me on a trip, you know? So it's like, if she didn't know what her values were, that would have been a much harder decision. And maybe she chose to not do the job and do her daughter's wedding and then regretted it the rest of her life. So I think, you know, it's, and I love how you described ambition, which is right, seeing that potential and then shifting yourself to achieve it. Had this woman not made that choice, her life, one, would be very, very different. But she knew what her values were. She knew where her ambition laid. She knew what her ambition was. I don't know how to conjugate that one. And her daughter understood, because her daughter also was in that relationship with her mom and knew what she wanted out of life.
Well, and it's interesting that you say that, Kathy, though, because, you know, again, in that room, right, there's a social norm that everybody was sitting there going, oh, well, of course you have to be at your daughter's wedding. That's the right thing to do.
It was split. Because when she said
was it split?
People would go to the meeting, I was like, I'd miss my own damn wedding for a multi-million-dollar business. You know, and there was more people to do the wedding, which I found kind of interesting, because in a room of business executives, I mean, it's like one day versus a career setting. I mean, to me, it just, my Capricorn mind is going, well, of course you go take the business thing, right? Like, I mean,
yeah.
And for some reason, they couldn't move the wedding. For some, you know, there was some.
I was gonna say, I thought, Kathy, you'd say they decided to move the wedding to Japan.
Good solution. Somehow they couldn't do that. You know, it's like, you go to her second wedding. She should. The first one's not going to work out. So no. But it was like, it was so interesting to gauge the room, because I was sitting in the back, because I had come in after my talk, and I was just watching this to see the reaction of all these women who, when she said I went to the meeting, you could see half the room go yes, and the other half went oh, you know.
Well, but it's interesting because of the social norms that we're put into, though, right? I think a lot of times there's pressure put on people, right? Like, again, okay, I'm the mother, it's my daughter, maybe it's my only daughter, right? So there's all these social pressures, like, you have to go to your daughter's wedding, right? But at the end of the day, what is it that you really want, right? Regardless of the social norms. I mean, I've seen, you know, men and women, you know, mothers, fathers. I've seen some mothers that don't really like to be moms, right? I mean, they don't really enjoy having kids, or decide they don't want kids, or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. I mean, each person has to kind of decide what's right for you, regardless of what the social norm happens to be, and not let that social norm kind of push you into making a decision that you really don't want to do.
And I agree with that. And I love, Kathy, what you had said about really understanding our own values in order to be able to get there. And that's actually one of the hardest things for us as human beings, is figuring out what's most important to us. Because sometimes there's so many other voices, right? You grew up with whatever it is, your family, your friend group, your schools instilled in you. And then you have the layer of the people around you, you have the workplace. And sometimes with all those different voices or ideas, it can actually be hard to get to that true north for ourselves. And there's not one right answer. That's what's phenomenal. You can have someone who's dedicated to, you know, nonprofit work, or full bore on their professional life, or their family, or some combination of those things, or any other number of things. And there's neither right or wrong, but how do we actually get people to be able to listen to that voice and figure that out, so that they can then ask of others, right? Because the first step is figuring out what we want. And then once you know what you want, you've actually got to communicate it to others so that people can help you along the journey. And until you get that clarity, you're sort of being, you know, tugged around by the stream instead of actually, setting an intention and then trying to achieve it.
Yeah. Well, and I ask that of my clients all the time. They're confused about what this next step is. And I say, but what do you want? I don't know. But what do you want? I mean, you don't get into, I use this analogy all the time. You don't get to an Uber and say, take me somewhere. You have to know where
That
you're
would be
going.
interesting.
And you don't say to them, don't take me to the airport, don't take me to the bus station, don't take me to Starbucks, we're so good at saying what we don't want. But what do we want? What are we shooting for? Because if we don't know our destination, and I'm not saying we have to know it every moment of every day, at some point though, we have to decide where we're going or we're never going to get there. That was I went to Point Park College, now Point Park University in Pittsburgh. And it was, our slogan was something to the effect of, we get you there. But you don't know where there is unless you pick a there. And we have to know that. We have to know what direction we're going. And I think that's also so lost. And I coach so many younger people who, they went to school and they get out of school and they're so lost because they don't know what they want because their parents said, you have to go to school, and they do it. And then they go, and they put so much pressure on themselves to, figure out their entire life in one second. And it's like, but it is a journey and we change our wants, right? I am not where I thought I would be 30 years ago. I was going to be the Hollywood star. I was an actress. I lived in Hollywood. I was going to be the next big movie star. Not what I'm doing, but I am still on stage and I am still entertaining people. I am still on TV and radio. I mean, it's like, I'm doing the thing. It just looks different. But had I not known where I wanted to go, I don't know that I'd be here.
Yeah. It is such a journey, isn't it? Because the more we discover about ourselves, and that just evolves constantly, the more we figure out a little bit more about where is it I want to go. So you might have some general intentions. I remember for me, from a very early age, I always was very focused on service, like how can I give back to others? And actually, before I ended up being a leader in the healthcare industry, I considered all sorts of things like going into teaching, going into ministry. But then I found that I actually had like a head for strategy and numbers. And if you overlay that with wanting to serve others, it works really well, actually, to be in the healthcare industry. And I can magnify the impact of what I can achieve. But it really took so much thought and course corrections and trying one job out and going, well, what did I like and what did I learn? And then being willing to try something else and take some risks. And that's the other thing I think about it is, yes, we want to know how do we get there, but also there's something beautiful about here. So here in this moment, what is it that we can learn and extract? And feeling the comfort of knowing we've arrived at any given moment that we're actually already in. So there's not a pressure and a stress to get to the there, because we're naturally always progressing towards it. And it's a fun journey.
Yeah. Well, it is important to honor the here, right? And I remember when I got my PhD, my diploma arrived. I had picked it up from the post office box and a client of mine walked in for a massage. And I was like, do you want to be the first one to see this? And she was all excited. And I unrolled my diploma and I went, yay. Okay. So, now what I want to do is and she goes, Kathy. And I went, what? Because I'm not used to a client talking to me that way. And she goes, you just pooped all over your PhD. Can you take 5 minutes and honor the fact that you just finished a freaking PhD? And I went, yeah, you're right. I checked the box. I was ready to move on to the next thing. Capricorn, right? Everything to me is a checklist. This is my mouse pad. It's a checklist of things. And she brought to my attention of, Kathy, why don't you just be here for a second? Now, is there stuff to do? Yes. Is there stuff I want to accomplish? Yes. And it is about honoring the here. It is about honoring where you are in any given moment. She very violently reminded me of that. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I just got hit with like 5 different things I needed to hear today too myself, right? So it's yeah, and it's again just having the knowing where you want to go is such an important part. And I think too, Loddie, what you were saying, is in your journey of am I going to be a teacher? Am I going to go into the ministry? Am I going to do some of these things because I want to serve? I think this is one thing that's really kind of hit me recently is, a lot of people are waking up now and they're realizing, hey, there's a lot more to this life than just the grind, the corporate grind, right? And I want to serve more people. And so a lot of people end up, having this existential angst of they quit a high paying job and they're like, I'm going to go teach surfing lessons, or I'm going to go be a hypnotist, or I'm going to go, do something that they see as being more serving kind of a thing, right? And give up a high-paying job, give up a job where you actually can influence lots of people. You can be the change in your organization or in your industry, which is exactly what you're doing with the nonprofits you're working with, but also all the people that your company's serving or providing, services to, all the people that you're interacting with as well. And that really we can serve in a lot of ways. And by serving the way that you serve, being the kind of leader that you are, right, adds that point of diversity, makes us stronger, both your company, all the people around you as well, right? That a lot of times when people are trying to find out, what do I want? A lot of times it's like, focus on the now. Where are you now? Because where you are now is probably where you wanted to be, because that's where you are, right? So be grateful and figure out how to do things in maybe a little bit different way to serve more. But you probably don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater and start completely over as well.
Yeah, and service, to your point, Jason, it's a mindset. So literally every moment, you go to a restaurant, let's say you get really great service, there's the tip, but also there's the opportunity to say, can I talk to the manager? And actually speak about the person who gave above and beyond service with a smile and really tried to make sure, your kids were happy with the chocolate milk and was just thoughtful and asked about your day. So service is in every moment, and it's the way we carry that with us and how we choose to show up. And it's also in realizing that because there's so many ways to serve, you can do it as a leader who's overseeing an organization of thousands. You can also do it as, for example, there was another woman that I met, airplane conversations are always fun.
Love it.
On an airplane. And, she had 2 young kids. And I was like, oh, how's it going? And, do you need any help? Because they were kind of rambunctious. And I'm a mom too, so I'm always happy to help. And she was like, no, they're being crazy, but I'm at peace with it. I'm really comfortable, and I love what I'm doing to take care of them. And it turned out over time that she was a mom who had first had kids in her 40s, as I got to know her. And she said that she used to work for another top tier consulting firm and had made it very far in her career there. And she said, I was just ready. I was just ready to focus on this and on them. And so for me, even when they're being rambunctious, it's not that hard, because this is what I wanted in this moment. And there's so many ways to serve individuals as we interact throughout the day, and then also in the longer arc through the strategies that we set and then try to work towards within organizations.
I love it. And what a beautiful place to end too. Yeah, just be where we are and know where you want to go. It got very existential here for a couple minutes.
We never know where we're gonna go.
We never know where we're gonna go.
That's a good. I know that's one of the topics, again, I needed to hear again myself today, and I'm sure lots of people that are listening need to hear that too.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Loddie, where can people reach you or the organization, learn more about what you guys are all doing?
Yeah, well, the Women in Healthcare Give Back, which is part of the Healthcare Business Women's Association, is on LinkedIn. So you can definitely find us there. And we have a handy little tinyurl.com/WIH Give Back. And you don't have to be a woman, and you don't have to be in healthcare. You just have to care that we're doing those things and help us amplify that. And then the Healthcare Business Women's Association is hbanet.org. So if there's anything else that you'd like to learn about this great global organization that's trying to increase diversity, equity, and inclusion, you are always welcome.
Woohoo! Yay, thank you so much for being here. What a great conversation. I knew when we were chatting last week that this would be, this week actually, that it would be a great conversation. So thanks for coming. I'm Kathy Groover. I can be reached at kathygruver.com.
And I'm Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. So go out, have a great week, enjoy where you're at right now, and just serve. Just find some way this week, some person, some way that you can serve, whether that's yourself, other people as well. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Fire and Earth Podcast. See ya.
Yeah.